Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Hello, epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Shannon Russell. Shannon, how are you? And tell me, who are you and what do you do?
Well, thank you for having me, Zander. I'm excited to be here. I am a career transition and business coach, and I help people kind of transfer from their 9-to-5 jobs to start a business that gives them fulfillment and flexibility.
Awesome. Now, because I know this, and this is a second act for you. What did you do before?
Yeah, I was a television producer in New York and LA for 16 years. So it was my dream from when I was a little girl, and I got to do it for 16 years. It was wonderful.
That is awesome. Challenging job, but really awesome.
Yeah, very long hours and lots of hustle and bustle.
Absolutely. So how did you begin this epic journey that you're on now?
Yeah, so I had 2 little boys, and that was kind of the catalyst. After missing my oldest son's first birthday and first Halloween, I kind of had this epiphany of I want to be a more present mom. And I kind of did a little mindset work on myself to say, you know what? I'm going to appreciate and celebrate what I did, but now I want to do something else, and I'm going to figure out what that second act is.
Right.
And so then I decided to produce my own life and get into entrepreneurship, and I opened a franchise business to start. That was my first business.
Yeah. Cool. And I've always wondered, opening a franchise business, is it difficult? Did you find you had lots of support from the franchisor as a franchisee? Did you sort of find that they're like, give us some money and then you're on your own?
There are definitely some that are like that, but no, mine was amazing. It was honestly the best step into entrepreneurship for me as a mom of 2 little kids in my first business. So I kind of say that franchises, if you pick the right one, are kind of like a business in a box because you have that support from the corporate office, the other franchisees, some of which have become my best friends, and we talk every day about our businesses. And you have all of the marketing materials, and just that guidance was a wonderful first step into business owning for me. And I was able to see that my skills really transferred from production into building a business. And that was incredible to see.
Absolutely. So can I ask what the business was?
Yeah, it was a Snapology STEM education franchise. So we taught children robotics and Lego building and how to think like engineers. So it was wonderful. I owned it for 8 years. I was in the top 3 of all of the franchisees most of that time. And I sold it last year successfully. So it's someone else's baby right now. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
And I'm always interested because I've done coaching. I do, I'm a mental health professional. So helping, I'm all about helping people, obviously. How did you decide to become a business coach?
It was funny enough. I was working in my franchise and I was teaching a lot of the classes at first. And a lot of parents would say, "Oh, you must have been a great teacher. What grade did you teach?" And it would come out that I was a television producer. And then they started saying, "Well, how did you go from that to this? Can you help me?" And so it was really an organic start. And I started helping friends, figure out their next move in their careers. And I started thinking that there was kind of a need for someone to just hold your hand as you get from the corporate world into owning a business, because I did it by myself trying to figure out what to do until I bought into that franchise. So it was kind of organic to start, and I just wanted to help, especially women, I think, in midlife when they realize, "Oh, this career I started at 20 doesn't really fit now that I'm, a mom and have other responsibilities."
Definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm not a woman. I don't know, but I certainly have observed lots of my friends and people I'm in relationship with being working, being a mom, sometimes that transition from, yeah, it's not realistic for me to be working 50 hours a week. I don't have the time. Something has to give. And, you know,
Yeah. And it
where,
can be for men too. It can be
oh,
for men too, don't you
absolutely.
think? Yeah, it's really realizing that you work so hard for this idea that you chose when you were in school, and then all of a sudden you go through the decades and you're just feeling it just doesn't align anymore. So I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Definitely. I mean, I worked in the corporate world for 22 years and found that there was a lot of lip service for,
Mhm.
oh, we really believe in work-life balance. But what I discovered was I was the one who had to make that balance. The company was not going to do it. And
Mm.
I needed to put some hard stops as to when I was working, what was a working time, what wasn't a working time. I was working for a Fortune 100 company, a worldwide team, and people were scheduling meetings with me at 9 or 10 o'clock at night because they were in Asia or Europe or whatever. And I got that.
Mhm.
But I'm like, I can't be on a phone call with you, Shannon, at 10 o'clock at night. Then say, all right, now I got to go to bed, but hold on, I'm all ramped up thinking about work. And
Yeah.
oh, I have a 6 o'clock team meeting that I have to go on. That's just not working. So for right or for wrong, I put in hard stops for myself. I literally on my calendar, it said at between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., not a work time. I was like it said out of the office. I would take a meeting if it was like a fire, we
Right.
have to, but just the general, hey, we need to catch up about this project. No, let's find a time. Otherwise, I didn't, I'd be in the middle of dinner and go, oh, sorry, I gotta go. Miss time with
Mhm.
my daughters. And I had little enough time as it was because I was working all day. But again, they were in school and stuff. So
Good for you for putting those stops in there, but I think it's hard when other people on your team don't, and then you're feeling the guilt, or you're getting the eye rolls,
well,
but you have to just
yeah,
know.
but I think, it's so important to say you can you could say that, but unless you're actually doing it, then I have to do it. And yes, it is probably somewhat at the detriment to your rocketing up the thing, but I talk about choice a lot in my book. We make a choice. And it's so empowering to say, I am choosing this. And yes, maybe I don't get that promotion, but I also am not missing my child's birthday. I'm not missing that quality time around the dinner table to find out how their day was,
Mm. Yeah.
versus saying to your spouse or finding out 3 weeks later that, kid lost a tooth because you were so busy. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, time is too precious and flies by too fast to be working 24/7.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. Have you ever noticed, because you got kids, and I have two daughters who are 18 or actually one's going to be 19 next week. Holy crap. And 20, almost 21. I remember when they were little, they were like, so, I can't wait to be grown up. And I'm like, let me explain to you. And you can't appreciate this, but you get to be a quote grown up for a heck of a lot longer than you get to be a kid. You're like a grown up from like 20 until the end.
Yeah, slow it down. Mine just turned 10 and 13 this month, and
Wow.
those are tricky, like, that hit me hard,
Yep.
both of those. But, yeah, you wanna slow it down, and, yeah, they're always like, my 13-year-old thinks he's an adult at 13. I'm like, "No, you are not at all." Like, enjoy, do have your fun, don't worry about I'm the mom who's like, "Don't worry about homework too much." Like, "Do you wanna take a day off? Let's go do something." Like, I just feel like experiences and living life to the fullest are really important at any age, but especially when they're so little and they're only little ones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think there is that balance to say, yes, we all have to learn how to work hard. We have to do it,
Mhm.
but we can have times where we're having fun. There's times where, look, you and I both know as entrepreneurs, there are days where the work just doesn't get done as much as it should.
Right.
You're just not feeling it. You're like, oh, I know I need to make those phone calls, but I don't it's just not, it just didn't happen. Yes, if it keeps happening, you got a problem. But if it's one day where you're like, you want to know what? I've been super busy.
Yeah.
It's okay today. It's a beautiful day. I'm gonna go sit outside and read a magazine and not feel guilty about it.
I mean, that's what we got into it for, right? One of the main reasons, I think. Yeah, absolutely. My son's
Yeah.
in a play this week, and I took the whole day off because I'm going to go to the afternoon show on a Thursday, and I'm going to go at night, and I just don't have any client calls that day. Like,
Yeah,
I'm going to be with him and celebrate that. So, yeah,
absolutely. Now, one thing I wanted to talk to you about is you've written a book.
I did. That's like
Let's
another
talk
act for
about
me.
writing a book. I've written 3 of them, which that alone blows my mind because
Oh my God.
I'm a talker, not a typer. And if you'd asked me in college if I'd write a book, I'm like, no, are you kidding?
Mm-mm.
But here I've done it. But it's a process.
Yes, I'm still in it. My book releases May 7th. So I'm in like the marketing phase right now. But yeah, it's been a little over a year since I started down this path, and it's been such a learning process. But so much fun. I'm enjoying it so much. It's called Start Your Second Act. So it's really everything that I teach and helping people figure out their next step in life. So I'm really passionate about the message, and I'm excited to get it out there. But whoa, it's a lot to learn. And I can't believe you've done it 3 times.
I
Wow.
know, I know. I mean, I talk about this with various guests and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's like the writing of the book is that's a process, but that's not even honestly the hardest part. Editing and the proofreading. I don't know about you, but I read. I mean, you could see 2 of my books are over my shoulder,
I do.
totally different. Like different subjects, but I know when Epic Begins with One Step Forward came out, when it actually came out, I didn't want to see my book for like a month because I'd read my book like 7 times because I had, I was proofreading it. I had other people that were giving me corrections. The company I work with that was putting the book together had part of the package was professional proofreaders, which I absolutely need. So they'd go through, and so I'd have to go through and see what they were correcting, try and catch, you know, oh, we deleted the period, or that there should be a comma, or they decided to rewrite something, and I'm like, no, you missed the way I intended that to be. My voice isn't there. But my point is, and I'm asking you, are you kind of like, you love your book, but you're like, at this moment, you're kind of like, I really don't want to open up my book for a little bit because wow, I have been eyeball deep in that and I know everything. And like, I just don't want to talk about that chapter right now.
1,000%. And it's so funny because I've been thinking that, and I recorded my audiobook as well. And
Right.
that was exhausting in itself. That was an entire weekend and very, and I have a podcast, but for some reason, that was so stressful trying to get that perfect. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to read it. I'm waiting for the proof copy to come, the actual physical book in the mail. So I'm excited to see it, but I don't think I'm going to read that thing again. It's I
Well,
just need
I
a little
think
space right now.
that's stuff that they don't tell you. And then you're like, to say, and for me to be out here in the world going, yeah, there was I was tired of my own book. But again, if you had any book and you read it like in a 6-week period, you read it once a week,
Right.
you'd be like, yeah, I really don't need to reread that, no matter how great it is.
Because you know what? The editing process can go on forever. At
Oh
one
my
point,
God,
I
yeah.
was like, it's done. It's perfect. Because
There's
otherwise,
good
it's
enough.
perfect, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Look, there may be something that you missed 3 months from now. You're like,
Yeah.
man, we forgot a period or a comma
Yeah.
or man, that's okay. Because at some point you do have to just let it
Yeah.
go. And I'm sure as a producer, you're like, okay, we're done. We could go keep editing the bejesus out of this, but it's not going to get better.
Mm-mm. I feel like it's exactly how I want it. And if I get other ideas of like, oh, I should have added that in, or I should have, it's like, okay, I'll put it in the next one. Right.
Absolutely.
But for now, this is packaged. It's quote unquote perfect for now. It's what I want. And I know my main thing is just to check this off my list of something I've always wanted to do and to be able to serve others in a different way of people who may not work with me one on one, but they can read this and feel a little bit of inspiration to start something new. So yeah, I feel like if that does it, then I will write whatever other thoughts I have in the next one.
Absolutely. And just, like as I talk about my book with, the epic begins, we all have these epic dreams, right? And be it write a book, run a marathon, just start a whole new career.
Yeah.
It is absolutely scary. And it is a big leap of faith.
Mhm.
However, the overall move is huge, but the first step actually is not nearly as hard as you think.
Mm, yeah. It can be a small one. It can be a small, I registered my LLC or I spent 15 minutes writing today, right?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And it's like anything, it takes time and practice, and you're not going to be good at being an entrepreneur if you've never done it. It's okay. I try and remind people of the things that we've all done that took time. Learning how to write. We don't think about it. Oh, I need to write a note. You know how to make all the letters and make the words and all of that.
Yeah.
But there was absolutely a time where it was hard for you to make an A and a B and a C, right? So much effort. And now you don't think about it. Why? Because you've had lots of practice doing it. And, I encourage people, be gentle with yourself.
Mm,
And we tend to go, oh, I'm not thriving or whatever. Well, you
mm.
want to know what? It's going to take time. Thomas
And the hardest
Edison did what, like 1,000 light bulbs before he figured out the right filament?
Very true. Yeah, and it's also just not wanting to live with regret. So even if you try it and it doesn't work out, you're always going to know that you tried, right? I think that's a big thing in this one life that we have too is trying so there's no regret at the end of the day.
Right. I mean, I say, one of the things I say in my book is the only thing you fail 100% at are the things that you do not try.
Very true. Yeah.
Look, failure is part of the journey. It really is. We're not going to get it right. I'll put it in much, much more basic terms. When we got up this morning, I don't know everything that's going to happen today. I don't have the answer to every single question. Here I am getting to interview you. I have no idea what we were going to talk about, but it doesn't stop me from going, hey, let's
Right.
do a podcast. Know what I mean?
I could have been really scary. This could have scared you the whole
You
time.
could have. Yeah. You could have been like, even though you're not in Hollywood, been like, all right, come on, let's go. What's the production schedule?
Exactly. Wrap it up. No.
Exactly.
Exactly. You don't know. It's a first time. Yeah.
So what are some pieces of advice that you have for women making, like maybe they've been in a corporate job or they're just in a job that no longer floats their boat?
Hmm. I think the first thing is to turn inward and just ask yourself, am I happy? And there's so few of us that actually do that. And I think once we can ask ourselves, am I happy here? Can I be doing more? Is there something else I want to do? Then just take out a paper and pen and start writing down your ideas and then write down your skills. Like write down what you can do in this current role you're in, what you've done in the past, and then look at what you're thinking about over here, writing the book, starting a business, whatever it is, and look and really appreciate where you've come from and what you've done so that you can see that line, that thread that kind of connects where you've been to what you can do next. And I think you can surprise yourself with how much your skills do transfer and how much you can bring with you as you start on that next venture. But I think it's just checking in, starting to write it down, and starting to research those ideas. Again, even if you never try them, research it and just think, is this something I can do? And if you're leaning towards yes, then give it a shot.
Absolutely. My career has honestly been jobs that, well, some jobs I should never have been hired because I just didn't have the skill set, but because I believe in myself unfailingly. And there is honestly something about being confident in yourself, even if you're like, oh God, I have no idea how I'm going to pull that off. Okay, but now I have to, right?
Mm. The fake it till you make it, right? It
Well,
really is true.
being a parent, there is no instruction manual.
No,
The
we're
moment
faking
you
it every
figure
day.
out something, the kids go and change. So you're like, well, that's not going to work anymore.
Right.
And I know what I had a time in 1999 where kind of at a crossroads. I was like, what am I going to do? And I took some time and I reflected on, yeah, just like you said, the jobs that I had done.
Mm.
I looked at, it was more looking at what I didn't want, what I was clear wasn't that job. I wasn't good at that job. One of the jobs where I wasn't really successful was I was a software engineer for a year, and I was a history and psych major. I don't think that way. I was able to do it because I'm smart and I can study and stuff. But I joke that I worked incredibly hard to be mediocre, and I want more out of life than mediocrity.
Mm.
And I just, when I was looking back, I'm like, that isn't the job for me.
Right.
I love that I have that knowledge, but that's not the world I want to be in. I'm the kind of person that if I have a problem, I'm coming over to your desk. Hey, Shannon, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
I don't understand this. And I was working with people who I'm incredibly extroverted. They were not as extroverted. So, you know,
I can imagine.
like, so
Yeah.
it is. And also want to say, like, if you're any of you listening, if you're thinking of a career transition, we honestly are incredibly capable beings. We really can do anything. I can assure you that as an entrepreneur, there were lots of skills I didn't have. I've been at it for 2 decades, and there's still skills that I'm working on getting better at. But I also realize there are the things that are not my strong suits, so that I can hire someone else to do that. It's kind of like, technically, Shannon, you and I could go out and change the oil in our car. It would take a really long time,
It would.
but we would rather go to Jiffy Lube or a quick lube place because they know what to do.
Yep. Very
I can't talk about cutting my hair, but technically people could cut their own hair, but you still go to someone who's an expert at it because it looks a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I think and also too, like when you're thinking about what you don't want to do as you think about your next move, that's
Yeah,
important because a lot of people just want to get out of their situation, that they'll leap at whatever opportunity and then they'll realize that it was a parallel leap and they're still miserable in a place because they didn't look at that. They didn't say, oh, that job is really a lot of what I dislike about where I currently am. So you want to make sure that you're leaping to something that is going to fulfill you in your second act because this is the time to be choosy. I mean,
absolutely. And I also think when I looked back, the thing that I discovered where I had joy, where my strength was that I was good at explaining stuff, teaching people.
mm,
So I went from doing highly technical stuff to I was a technical trainer for 17 years.
oh,
I
wow.
taught people how to use software because I understood that I could learn that side, but I could teach it and teach people and have an aptitude for, oh wait, you don't understand that. Let me figure out a way to explain it to you that you're going to remember it. And that was highly fulfilling because I got to use knowledge I had, but I didn't have to do it every day. I got to do it in a way. And that's the thing. We get these skills. If you're looking for your second act, you have this huge treasure trove of skills. And even if you don't know it, you're like, oh, in my job, I like it when I get to do a presentation. Well, pay attention to that.
Yep, you're right.
Pay attention to, you want to know what? I love when I'm at a conference and maybe my company you're working in tech and you're like, I have to work the booth, but I seem to do really well there. Or I don't really like that. So a job where I'm, public, front facing may not be my best job.
Yeah, that's so true. Couldn't
So,
agree more.
Shannon, how can people find you, get a hold of you, find your book?
Yeah, I'm at Second Act Success everywhere on social. And my book is at startyoursecond.act.com.
Cool.
It comes out in May. So
that is so exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, it's a lot of work at this stage, but it's all been so wonderful and fun.
It actually never stops. Let me tell you. I hate to tell you, but
yeah.
Even though my books are out, I'm always like, all right, what book promotion am I going to run? When am I going to run it? What's that going to look like?
I'll be reaching out to you for advice because it's a long, long road ahead for me with this.
It is. It is. But, congratulations. It is so awesome that you get to call yourself a published author.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's another act, and we'll see where it leads from here. But
absolutely. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Zander. This has been so fun.
I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, you can see my new TV show, Epic Begins with One Step Forward. As always, remember that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.